Hey guys, it's Ryan Crystal's Reviews, and tonight is Friday night, and that means tonight is the first episode of the After the Pull Is Gone show, where I talk about the books that I got this week, and books that I liked, books that were just so-so, maybe books that you can skip if you were thinking about picking it up and it wasn't really all that great. So first book that I got, so I've got 10 books here. Now in my Wednesday show, I only had 8. I actually went out and picked up a couple extras that I'd kind of done some reading on and thought, I kind of like to read that. So there'll be a couple extra books in here that wasn't shown on Wednesday. So first up at number 10 is The Invincible Red Sonja number 2. The story was just so-so. So she's protecting a princess on her wedding night and from someone who's trying to kill her, and they're trying to unite these kingdoms. And, you know, that's pretty much the gist of it right there. She just happens to get stepped on, and she wakes up, and then she takes out the person that was about to kill the person she was guarding. And it ends with a crown being stolen, and then they're off to the next story. So it was just kind of like I said, it was really just I get that one for the Linsner art, because I really like his art. So I do want to say, I didn't say this at the outset, spoilers for all these books because I'm going to go over them. Next up is Amazing Spider-Man 67, which is the first part of the Chameleon Conspiracy. This book was okay, not great, but it was just okay. Peter's sister breaks into a prison to get to Chameleon, and Chameleon kind of messes with her mind a little bit, and then he starts talking to her about her dead parents, and then he ends up showing her who killed her parents, or supposedly killed her parents, because just happens to be in the next cell block. And then the Peter story kind of side of it is Betty Brant's back, and she's pregnant with Ned's baby, but Ned's been dead for a while now, so it was kind of confusing because of what happened a while back, but then Ned is still alive somehow, so there's a lot of twists and turns there. It was an okay read. It's going to be interesting to see where it goes from here. I have a feeling that somehow Chameleon is probably involved in that, if he's posing as Ned or what, but he's locked in jail, so I don't know. But it wasn't a bad, it was just okay. Hopefully the storyline's going to progress and get a little bit better as it goes along. Next up is Batman 109. So this would be my number 8 pick for this week. You see, I got the cardstock cover here. It's an all right book. There's a lot of Ghostmaker in it. And it's really more about him and Harley, and then Harley and Poison Ivy than Batman. He's in it, but he's not in it very much. It's more about that kind of story. That storyline takes the main stage, and the Batman storyline is kind of the underlying story in this one. But it was just okay for me. Wasn't like a super great read, but it was okay. You gotta, and this is, like I said, this is the cardstock variant, so this guy's $6. So if you were looking to get this book, you got $6 you want to spend on, then go ahead. Next up, so this book is new. Actually, those books I showed on Wednesday, this book was new. I picked this book up today. This is Iron Man Annual number 1. This is the beginning of the Infinite Destiny storyline. You see it there. He's fighting Quantum. This book's, I don't know. I'm hoping we're going to get more out of this story than kind of what this book gave us. Tony is going in, and he's kind of fighting some AI, and it has to do with the Infinity Gems or Stones, whatever you want to call them. But it's not. It's just so-so. I mean, it was really. I kind of felt like it was all over the place. But I'm hoping that it's going to get better. This is going to run through the annuals this summer. So Captain America, I think, is the next one up. You got an Avengers annual in there. I think that's the last one, in fact. So it's going to run through there. Hopefully the story's going to get a lot better than what was in there. So what was that? It was number 7. So number 6 for this week for me is Basilisk, and it's a good opening story. I'm not quite sure exactly what's going on here. This girl in the middle, she has this power to look at people, and it basically melts their eyes out, causes them to bleed really bad. And it's a very, very bright light. So she wears, you can kind of see it here, right here. So she wears this little purple hood over her face the whole time. And then she's tracked down by another person, and I'm going to assume that was a part of this team, because these 4 show up in the last panel. So I'm assuming that at one point she was a part of that team, maybe, I don't know. And she's tracked her down, and it's not really clear kind of what's going on, but then they get interrupted by a team, and that's when she uses her power of the bright light out of her eyes to melt or make them bleed out of their eyes. So it's going to be interesting to see where this goes. It's just chapter 1. I'm not really sure how many books are going to be in this series, but it's going to be hopefully it's going to be a good book. So far, I mean, the first issue was good. That to me would be a pickup. I think up until this point, these first 4 were they were just meh, and if you wanted to skip them, you could skip them. I guess unless you really wanted to if you really were looking forward to this storyline, the Infinite Destiny storyline, then obviously you'd want to get this one as it's the first one. But I would recommend picking up Basilisk. I think it's going to be a great book, and it's really shaping up well. So my number 5 pick for this week is Green Lantern number 3. This is actually a really good read. John Stewart is put in this alternate kind of dream state from someone that basically kind of looks like she uses mushrooms to kind of put him in that alternate state. And it kind of goes back, and there's a few panels in there to where he's back in high school, and all the other Green Lanterns are his classmates, and then this person is the teacher, and he's kind of like, wait a second, this isn't right. I remember going to high school, none of these people were here. So she's trying to get information out of him on how he survived being out in space without his ring. And they end up on a planet, this creature's home planet, and she talks about how they send out these scout drones every so often. The scout drone actually picked him up because they're too scared to leave because of what's out there. And then the last part of it is there's like some bounty hunters, or they're pirates. They're not really bounty hunters. They're pirates. They show up. He knows who they are. He tries to intimidate them as just being a Green Lantern, wearing a Green Lantern shirt, and they're like, oh, well, let's fight then. So he doesn't really have his ring, doesn't have his powers. So that's kind of interesting to see, and that's a really cool cover. That's him on the cover. And then the backup story is, like I said, I'm just jumping onto this series. I actually just picked up issue 1 and 2 today, so I'm gonna go back and read those. But the Teenage Lantern, and then the other one, she's got the kind of the funky glasses. The backup stories about them. They're on Oa. Oa's been attacked, and she's trying to reach out to any other lanterns she can get a hold of. The battery is destroyed, so they can't recharge their rings. They don't know how many rings are still can still be used or still charged. They don't know that, so she's reaching out, and so it's a good backup story. I have a feeling. I know I've seen some previews that Jessica Cruz turns into a Yellow Lantern, so I'm wondering if the Yellow Lantern Corps is the one that attacked Oa. Of course, how many times has that happened now in the Green Lantern book? I don't know. I lost count. But they always seem to kind of put a twist on it somehow. So it's going to be interesting to see where it goes from there. Like I said, I just picked up issue 1 and 2 today, so I'm gonna read those as well. The next 2 books were books that I picked up today that were not in Wednesday's show, and they're my 4 and 3 pick, and that's X-Force and Marauders. Obviously, these are part of the Hellfire Gala, and so you can see X-Force there. It's a really cool cover. And then Marauders there, that's a great cover with Emma Frost on the cover. So Emma Frost is kind of the one leading this whole charge, and not really sure what exactly the intentions are yet, but she's got pretty much every superhero that you can have. The Avengers, Fantastic Four, Doctor Strange, Doctor Doom, which Doctor Doom in Marauders was great. There's some panels in there to where they have someone come up and play some sort of solo, and then Ms. Marvel and I can't remember the other character. They basically make everybody feel like they're the ones performing, and they're all kind of fawning over how well it is to perform, and Doom is just sitting there like, this is pointless. In perfect Victor Von Doom fashion, I'm not impressed. You know, are you not impressed? He's not impressed. He could care less. And he shows that, and then there's some great panels in there with him and Steve Rogers, Captain America, and Emma Frost kind of interrupts him, and it's just Doom's such a great character. They still know how to write him, and he's arguably the great. To me, he is my favorite villain in Marvel. Is Doom. He just is. He always has been. Ever since I watched the old Spider-Man cartoons from the '80s, when he would fight Victor, or he'd fight Doctor Doom, and that was the one where they really did the Doom bots, where he takes over the UN, and I love that. That was one of my favorite cartoons growing up. So on to my number 2 pick. So these are definitely pickups. If you're looking forward to reading the Hellfire Gala, maybe you're not. But if you are, these are definite pickups. So I think the next issues are X-Men, and I can't remember what else they said in there. Or the next issues coming up. My number 2 pick, and this was a book that I was on the fence about. I wasn't sure I was going to get it, but I did get it. I'm glad I did. This is Batman: The Adventures Continue, Season 2, Number 1. So this was a really good read. This is a definite pickup. Deadman's involved, and he's kind of going around, and you're not... The Court of Owls, which I think this is the first time that we've seen the Court of Owls in the animated series. I could be wrong about that. I'm not sure. But Batman he's gonna have to deal with the Court of Owls, and Zatanna shows up because he goes to her because the Talon is able to see Deadman where no one else can, but Talon is able to, and it doesn't really tell you yet how that's possible, but he can see him, and Batman notices that when he's fighting Talon, that he can see that he's seeing a ghost. So he goes to Zatanna to ask for help, and then they start to get the lead on Deadman, and there's a great panel at the end. She gives him this amulet. Zatanna gives Batman this amulet, and he sticks it on his head and hangs down and he's like meditating, and he's like, this isn't gonna work. This isn't gonna work. And then basically Deadman's been there for like an hour, and he's like, I just want to make sure you were gonna believe. So that's kind of where that book leads off. This was a really good read. I'm really happy I picked this up. This is a definite get. So my the last book. This is the number 1 book. This is my pick of the week. This was a phenomenal read. I'm super excited for book 2. Honestly, this was of all the books I've read, especially the new stuff in the last month or whatever, getting back into it. This has by far been my favorite. Maybe some people didn't like it. If you didn't like it, you know, that's fine. This is Nice House on the Lake, number 1, issue 1, book 1. This was a phenomenal read. I talked about it a little bit on Wednesday, that, you know, the character Ryan, a great name, she is invited up to this house on the lake through an email from this person that she met years ago. And they sat down and they talked about how the world's going to end. He started asking questions. Well, how do you think the world's going to end? So they would talk about this conversation, and then time would go on, and then they would get in contact. I want to talk about the conversation. So it was really interesting to see that backstory, and it's kind of weird and twisted. Two people just talking about how they think the world's going to end. So she gets invited up to this lake house, and it's obviously, it's called the Nice House on the Lake, so the house is really nice. So it gave me the Clue vibe. I'm a big fan of the 80s Clue movie with Tim Curry and Leslie Ann Warren and Madeline Kahn and Christopher Lloyd, and I love that movie. And it really gave me that Clue vibe because they're called up to this house. They all know this person, and they know each other through some sort of what Ryan calls clusters. The college cluster, New York cluster, she calls them clusters. So they all kind of know each other, but it was real mysterious about what was going on. He was very clear to only pick specific people, and he was very clear about he didn't want any people that he didn't want picked to come up there. So he left it very vague. They were supposed to do this or that. And each person, and you can see it here on the front cover, each person was given one of these symbols. And that symbol correlated to your room and other things. And then each person was given an alias, the artist, the accountant, etc. Which gave me that Clue vibe, because in Clue, on that movie, Professor Plum, Mrs. White, Colonel Mustard, those are aliases in which Mr. Body gave them, so they weren't going to reveal their real names. That was those were just aliases. So it really gave me, and I love that movie. It gave me the Clue vibes. I know I'm rambling on about that, but so as they're up here at the lake house, they're having fun, they're enjoying it, whatever, and then she turns on. I think she gets on her phone. For some reason she's the only one that has cell service. No one else had cell service in this house. And she gets on, I think it's kind of like Twitter or social media feed, something like that. And she sees that New York is on fire, and their skin is melting off because of the heat. And then it's not just New York, it's other places. So all of a sudden this guy shows up, the main guy shows up that they all know, and he reveals that he's not really a human. He's some sort of alien. And she pegs him right away, and she says, "You chose," which I think those were, looking forward, I think those are big words. That's important a little key right there. She's saying, well, you chose, like you chose this, you decided this. And so he kind of reveals that it's him and his other brothers and sisters, or his other race, whatever you want to call it. So she picks up a fireplace poker, and she goes to hit him in the head with it. And as the poker starts to kind of make contact, his head just kind of turns into smoke. And then it goes back, and he's like, "You're going to have everything you need here. You're going to have all the food you need, all the water you need, all the entertainment. The deal is, you can't leave. You're stuck." And then he just leaves. He just gets up and walks out, or just leaves, disappears. He just tells me, "You can't leave, but you got everything. The world's on fire. The world's ending. But hey, you stay here. You're going to be safe. You can't leave. Sorry." So that's kind of that's how it ends, and it's a great opening book. I'm really hoping that they keep this momentum going, and it was easily my pick of the week this week. I'm really looking forward to book 2. I'm sure it's probably a monthly book. I would really like it if it was an every other week book, but I've already kind of look forward, and it doesn't look like it's going to be. So hopefully we'll get the second book. The second book will take off, and it's going to be just as good. I'm telling you, this was a great read. This is a must get this book. This book has movie potential. I mean, this was like reading a movie. Someone could easily make this into a movie, and they make it into a movie. What happens? These books, they skyrocket. I talk about it all the time in the back issues, and on the Throwback Thursday show, I talk about it all the time. And this is a good book to spec on, because you know, look at Something is Killing the Children. That book came out, #1 issue came out, no big deal. It was a great read. Before you know it, they're gonna make a show. Now that book's selling for $400-500. Near mint copies are going for that high. So this book right here could do the very same thing, because this could easily be a movie. We're gonna see where it goes. Hopefully it continues strong and we get in the middle, the big chunk, figure out what's going on, and it ends strong. So that's it for tonight. Like I said, this is the first episode of the After the Pull is Gone. Just kind of a little play on words with some songs there. So hope you all enjoyed it, and looking forward to seeing you guys on Sunday for the preview show, where we're talking about next week's books and what's coming out next week. And hope you guys have a great Friday night, great weekend, and we will see you on Sunday. Thanks, guys.